Let's take a look at this conversation, Scott Ritter, and we will be making some comments. Take a listen.
Well, Israel has been planning for a war against Iran for some time. You're 100% correct on that, and we know by looking at the MOSSAD operations in Iran, some of them date back 10 years. Israel has been preparing for this for a decade. The Air Force has been preparing these very strike profiles that they're flying right now. They've been training them. They used to go up to Turkey and fly them in Konya along terrain that replicates what they'd experienced here. So Israel has been prepared for this, but Israel has also come to the realization that they cannot initiate and sustain an air campaign against Iran without the assistance of the United States. That's always been one of the critical factors. And there's nothing that has changed in Israel's military posture that would change that conclusion. And in fact, if you take a look at, because Israel has had this conflict in Gaza with Hezbollah and is currently engaged in Syria, Israel's weaker today than they would be at any other time previous to this. So they're striking Iran when they're actually weaker, not stronger. Yes, they use some tricks, but if I'm going to use an American football analogy, hopefully your audience will understand it. But if I'm a coach preparing for at the beginning of the season to go to the Super Bowl, if all I do is focus on trick plays, okay, here's a trick play, here's a trick play, here's a trick play. That trick play may work once, but then it's done. It doesn't work again. Or do I work on fundamentals, a running attack, a passing attack, how to do a drive, how to work on position control so that we dominate the field? The team that works on fundamentals wins the Super Bowl. The team that has to rely on trick plays doesn't go to the Super Bowl. Israel right now, understanding that they can't win this game without American assistance, relied on trick plays. And it didn't work. Iran has recovered, and Iran, having worked on fundamentals, is winning the campaign. Israel's only hope right now is that the United States intervene. That's their only hope for salvation. If the United States fails to intervene and this war continues, then Israel will be physically destroyed by the Iranian ballistic missiles.
And would that be conceivable for American politics as a whole, left and right, to sit back and watch Israel as this most expensive kind of military asset in the last 70 years to be destroyed or no? So in a sense, isn't Netanyahu's expected trick was to lure to do something that America's intervention is absolutely necessary and absolutely inevitable?
Yeah, and had this been a different president, maybe it would have succeeded. But we have a president who ran on an election platform of peace. And the majority of his supporters voted for him to keep America out of wars. And many of these Americans aren't your traditional pro-Israeli crowd. They're pro-America crowd. And so we have a situation here where Israel has started a war with a surprise attack. It's been called a Pearl Harbor type event. If you're an American, you know what Pearl Harbor means. It's the day of infamy, when the Japanese launched a surprise attack against us. We don't celebrate this day as a day of amazing Japanese military victory. We celebrate it as a day of infamy when we were attacked while we were asleep on a Sunday. Israel now has done that. And there's hardly any Americans that go, well, that's a good thing. Most Americans are going, no. So Israel now has tried to
bragging about having done September 11.
Yeah, bingo. Thank you. Now you have the Israelis trying to make the case, well, we had to do it. They're trying to replicate the case of going to war with Iraq, the threat of weapons of mass destruction, the threat of nuclear weapons. The problem is with Iraq, the CIA was playing the game. They issued false intelligence assessments, etc. Here we have the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, saying Iran's not a threat. There is no nuclear weapon program. Even the director general of the IAEA, who is complicit in using the IAEA as a tool against Iran, and passed a finding of noncompliance that led to a board decision by the Board of Governors that helped give Israel to say, look, we have to take action. He now says, no, even their noncompliance, it wasn't about nuclear weapons. There is no nuclear weapons program in Iran. So now, if you're the president trying to explain why we're going to go to war against Iran, it's not going to be because we're here to support Israel. It had to be because Iran represented a threat. But when your director of national intelligence says that Iran doesn't represent a threat, it becomes harder to sell that war. And it becomes harder to get American sympathy to Israel when Israel launched the surprise attack. Iran, it's not just that Iran was evil lurking there. Iran was in the process of negotiating a satisfactory agreement about how to eliminate the threat of an Iranian nuclear weapon. Ali Shamkhani, 2 days before he was murdered by the Israelis, did an interview where he said, we're willing to sign a treaty that said, this isn't about just saying the fatwa of the supreme leader. We're willing to sign a treaty that says we will never have nuclear weapons. We're willing to.
I just want to make one interesting point here, which is that Ali Shamkhani, the chief negotiator of Iran, who was negotiating with the United States, as Scott Ritter said, he was killed by Israel. We found out just yesterday, or actually 2 days ago, that he's actually alive. He's not dead. Israel did not kill him. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
To have our enrichment capped at 3.75% for just what we need for fuel. We're willing to let American inspectors participate in the inspection process. Iran was willing to do everything, and they were preparing for the negotiations on a Sunday when they were bombed on a Friday. The perfidy of this. Perfidy is a crime, a war crime. The Israelis, also committed a war of aggression, which, according to the Nuremberg precedent, is the highest war crime imaginable, because from a war of aggression, all other crimes emanate. It's very difficult to sell the need for America to sacrifice itself on behalf of Israel when Israel has behaved in a manner that's totally indefensible, totally a manufactured case. So, well, I'm not saying that we won't go to war against Iran. I'm saying that it's not. I know there's people out there say, well, America's under the control of Israel. Not as much as people think we are. We still love America more than we love Israel, most of us. And I don't think Americans are willing to sacrifice their security for Israel.
I mean, it is so strange given like Trump's campaign, both in 2016 and 2024, against going to another futile war in America and sending American boys kind of back home. That now this is a rumor in the Middle East that Netanyahu has told Trump that beware of JFK's fate, or there's going to be like, I don't know, there are some documents, Epstein type documents about Trump. I'm not saying that these are true, but the situation is so unbelievable for like kind of bystanders in the Middle East that they are coming with this like form of conspiracy theory. So you think that we should not be deceived by Trump's ever increasingly kind of warmongering rhetoric. He still has real obstacles in order to go to the war, and he will lose part of MAGA if he does so.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't buy into this notion that Israel can blackmail an American president, because we can destroy Israel that quick. And if Netanyahu came to an American president and said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to threaten you your life, Netanyahu would be arrested, and Israel would be destroyed. Israel doesn't get to threaten America. It doesn't work that way. I know people talk about the JFK thing and all that, but I'm talking about modern reality. Israel has its way of influence in America. It's done so by openly, admittingly buying Congress for $100 million. And their Israeli money it permeates American politics and permeates the Trump team. We know this. He's built a pro-Zionist cabinet unlike any that's ever been built. But the idea that Israel is going to blackmail a sitting American president would be suicide. He's the commander-in-chief of the United States.
Well, I don't know about that, if I can agree with Scott Ritter about blackmailing American president by Netanyahu. Because we know all the Epstein files. We know a lot of shady work going on that a lot of us we are not aware of. If you take a look at the moguls, Hollywood moguls, rich people, famous, influential, you will see these people, they support Zionism. And for you to become a president, it is a requirement for you to support Zionism. And you don't talk against Netanyahu whatsoever. Now, was this because Israel is so important to U.S., or was it something else? Was it that the Netanyahu, his government, and the Israeli government in of itself has dirty laundry on these politicians, on these influential people who worship Israel? This is something that is so strange, and I will not buy this narrative where anyone will come and tell me that Israeli government or the Zionists, if they cannot blackmail certain politician, especially the president of United States. I would not buy that narrative. I'm more onto the side of believing that they can blackmail a sitting president. I mean, Donald Trump, the reason he's not revealing the Epstein file, according to Elon Musk, is because he is in there. Donald Trump knows a lot of this and has done a lot of these dirty things that can be used against him by Netanyahu. Why would Donald Trump hide so many things? Why would Donald Trump will get arrested? Why would so many sitting president will support Israel unconditionally until they die? It's not because they love Israel. Obviously they do, but it is more than just their love for Israel. They are slaves of Israel, whichever way you want to put it. Israel has leash on all of these presidents. I mean, think about the USS Liberty in 1979, I think, when this particular warship was destroyed by Israel. US warship. What did the US do? Nothing. So it cannot be that they love Israel so much, but there has to be more than that. But that's the point that we can maybe discuss in a separate video. But overall, I think this conversation does tell us a lot of things about Israel's preparation, Iran's preparation, CIA, what is going on in Washington. But I'm not going to be playing the rest of the video where Scott Ritter will be then talking about Donald Trump, his political career based on what he did to Israel recently. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.